Welcome back to Past, Present, and Politics. I'm Eleanor Gillette. I'm super excited to be starting this podcast where we will be discussing everything from historical deep dives on things that you did not learn in history to current events and politics. I would like to start off the show talking about the past because the past, without understanding the past, it's impossible to understand what's going on now. And we were taught so little of our history as Americans. Public school really did fail us when it came to history. There's just so many things that we should know about that we don't. For example, the Bolshevik Revolution. That's the thing that is the most insane to me, is that during the Soviet Union, during World War II, when we were allies with the Soviet Union, they killed almost 20 million Christians, maybe even more. And we don't know about it. We know about the Holocaust. We're taught about the Holocaust all the time. But we are never taught about the Bolshevik Revolution because it was Christians who were being killed. So I just always use that as an example because it's insane that we do not know about that. But there are so many other things throughout history that we were not taught. So I'd like to start off with the show today talking about the JFK assassination. The conservative commentator Ben Shapiro has been under fire recently because he recently came out and said that he does not care who killed JFK. He wrote an article about it. Let's see if I can get it pulled up. He wrote an article titled, "Why Does It Matter Who Shot JFK?" And he also talks about it on a show, but in this article, he basically says that it was a conspiracy theory that anyone other than Lee Harvey Oswald was involved in the assassination of JFK. And he gives examples of presidents who were shot or who nearly escaped assassination attempts. He uses them as examples of why the JFK assassination was not unique, which is crazy because none of these examples are anything like the JFK assassination. The JFK assassination is so unique for so many reasons. Even if you believe that JFK was shot by Lee Harvey Oswald and only him alone and there was nothing else behind it, you still have to admit that the JFK assassination is so unique with how many things did not add up. There were so many things that did not add up. And what we were originally told to believe is the magic bullet theory, which is what Ben Shapiro is wanting us to believe in this article. But the magic bullet theory was basically an idea that was introduced in the Warren Commission. So the CIA is the one who introduced this theory, and they basically wanted us to believe that JFK was assassinated and the Texas governor, John Connally, was assassinated, all with one bullet, which resulted in 7 exit and entry wounds. 7 exit and entry wounds. I don't know how that's even possible, which is why they call it the magic bullet theory. But the fact that they want us to believe this instead of maybe, I don't know, there's something more to it, maybe more than one gunman. The fact that they want us to believe this is just insane. But the funny thing is we are called a conspiracy theorist if we don't believe this, and we were called a conspiracy theorist for a long time, and that's still a word that's used against people who question the narrative today. But the word conspiracy theory first started being used in the 1863 was when it first appeared, the word, in a New York Times article. But it was a very, very unpopular phrase until 1963 when JFK was assassinated, and the New York Times wrote 5 articles just in that year using the word conspiracy theory. And the Warren Commission used it to describe people who believed that maybe Lee Harvey Oswald might have been working with the CIA. And so next time somebody calls you a conspiracy theory, you can have that piece of knowledge. Just know that the conspiracy theory, the word conspiracy theory, only became popular because of the CIA and because of mainstream media. And so as I was doing research on the JFK assassination, there were so many things that didn't add up. And a lot of people who are into conspiracy theories know a lot about the JFK assassination. But I did not know that much about the JFK assassination because this is something that we were not really taught about in school. We were taught that JFK was assassinated, but we were not taught all of the things leading up to the JFK assassination or all of the things that did not add up. We were not taught any of this, and it's so important. So I'll give a little bit of background information. I'll give a couple of examples of things that didn't add up for people who don't know as much about it. For one, Jack Ruby or Jack Rubenstein shot Lee Harvey Oswald before he could even stand trial, which is not something that usually ever happens. We were taught to believe that this was just a weird coincidence. And then when I was looking through videos of the JFK assassination, I found this one. Let's see if I can get it pulled up. There we go. And the agent, Emery Roberts, the agent in charge, he's pointing in a direction. He's basically calling off the guards. And look, they get called off. And that one is so confused. You can see how he shrugs his shoulders multiple times. He's very confused. See, they're just called off right at the perfect time before he gets shot. Which these people are supposed to be his security guards. They're supposed to be his human shield, basically, and they're not even anywhere near him. They get called off right before he gets shot. And so this is super odd that the security guards would be this far away from JFK because, I mean, that's their one job, which obviously was also super suspicious with the assassination attempt on Donald Trump was the failure from the security guards. Or Secret Service. But there's so many other things that don't add up. One of the things that a lot of conspiracy theorists know about is the stuff, like the reasons why JFK could have gotten shot. There's so many of them. One of them that a lot of people know about is Operation Northwoods, which what I also didn't learn about in school. This is something that I learned about on my own. But basically the CIA came to JFK. They came to him with this whole plan to try to justify going to war with Cuba by attacking United States civilians and then blaming it on Cuba. And this entire thing is published online. Like, it's not a conspiracy theory. You can look this up. It's Operation Northwoods. It's all out there, and there's classified documents that are all published now that were given to the president in 1962. And they had this elaborate plan in detail of how they were going to attack the United States citizens and then blame it on Cuba so they could go to war with Cuba because they desperately wanted to go to war with Cuba. And JFK stood in their way. And JFK also stood in their way during the Cuban Missile Crisis. So all of these things would be a great reason to assassinate a president. Like, right before he gets assassinated, they do this. And then even like sooner before he gets assassinated, one thing that I found very interesting was that JFK demanded that the American Zionist Council, or now known as AIPAC, register as a foreign lobbyist group, which no other president has tried to do before. JFK was the only one who tried to do it. And all of these Zionist groups were so angry. They they were so angry. All they could think of doing was calling him an anti-Semite. And then conveniently, after JFK got shot, Lyndon B. Johnson became president. And he was one of the most pro-Israel presidents ever, in the history of ever. He is one of the most pro-Israel presidents. And he is the one who forged our alliance with Israel. And when Israel attacked the USS Liberty, which I will talk about later because a lot of people also don't know about that, when that happened, Lyndon B. Johnson covered it up for them. So the odds of that happening right before he got assassinated is very suspicious, to say the least. So I wonder why Ben Shapiro doesn't care who killed JFK. And I wonder why he thinks that we as American citizens would rather believe the magic bullet theory, or that we genuinely... I don't know how he expects us to not question this narrative, because it's so suspicious on so many levels. There's so many things that don't add up, and there's even more that I could get into. All right, so for those of you who don't know, this past weekend, there was a pro-life activist who was assaulted as she was giving an interview to a pro-choicer. The pro-life activist's name is Savannah Craven Anteo, and she was assaulted while she was interviewing someone. Let's see if I can get the video pulled up. Basically, she's just having a regular conversation with her. And she punches her in the face, just out of nowhere. And here's a picture of her, an after shot when she's covered in blood. But as disturbing and as sad as this is, it's not surprising, especially when you watch the video and beforehand the pro-choicer is defending her belief that it's okay to murder babies in the womb, because when the pro-lifer is interviewing her, she basically asks, well, if it's okay to kill an unborn baby in the womb because they might live a hard life, then would it be okay for us to kill foster children? And the lady says, yeah, why not? Like, why not? So the length that these people will go just to defend their position is crazy. And I mean, a lot of pro-choicers, I would say maybe a lot of them don't know what abortion is or what exactly they're supporting, but the ones who do know, it would not be surprising for them to be violent and lash out, because these people support violence against unborn children. And so for them to be violent against people who are born is not shocking. I mean, it shouldn't be shocking. And this isn't something new. In 2023, there was a man named Patrick Bryce who assaulted two elderly pro-lifers. And he beat them up and kicked them in the head. Here's a picture of one of them. I mean, it was so bad. So the fact that this isn't an isolated incident kind of, I don't know, it just shows what pro-abortionists really believe, especially those who know what abortion is like, because they know that it's wrong. And so they're willing to do anything. They're willing to do anything to anyone because they think that violence is okay, which is, I mean, it's the sad truth. So lately, I have been thinking about Gen Z, which is my generation. And I've been thinking about my generation a lot because, I mean, every generation gets their fair share of hate. It's not uncommon for older generations to criticize younger generations for being younger, for being more naive and for being unexperienced and maybe more emotional. And I used to agree with this. I mean, I still agree to an extent that my generation, I mean, obviously we're more unexperienced, but as I've gotten older, I've kind of changed my mind a little bit. I've kind of had more hope for Gen Z, mostly because, I mean, there's plenty of reasons for this, but one of them is that Gen Z has become a lot more conservative and also a lot more America first over the years, especially compared to our parents when they were our age. And I was having a conversation about this with my mom, and she was complaining about Generation Alpha, which is the generation below me. And I kind of just told her, like, yeah, I think that our generation, Gen Z, will be responsible for basically bullying it out of them. The whatever is going on, the iPad kid furry epidemic. And she didn't believe me. She was like, I don't think so. Your generation, you guys all have blue hair and pronouns. And I don't know. I kind of just said to her, yeah, I think half of us do. But then there's the other half of us who we don't watch mainstream news like Fox News, and we only listen to independent sources, and we're willing to learn about history, the history that was not taught to us in school. So I jokingly said half of us have pronouns and the other half of us watch Hitler speeches translated into English on Instagram. But this is something that you don't see with older generations. Older generations trust mainstream news outlets like Fox News and the New York Times and CNN. But Gen Z doesn't. Like, Gen Z has lost a ton of trust in the mainstream news, which is a good thing because the mainstream news is not trustworthy. I mean, they've proven that over and over again with the amount of lies they have told. But, so according to Gallup News, the mainstream Gen Z trust in mainstream news has plummeted with every generation. But in 1972, 68% of people had trust in the mainstream news. And since then, it has gone down to 31%, which is wild. And according to the same article, there is a 17-point gap in trust in mainstream news between older Americans and younger Americans, with trust declining with each generation. So the trust is going down with each generation. And this is something that we don't really need data for. I mean, it's very obvious. Almost everybody knows that older people are the ones who watch Fox News and younger people are the ones who get their news from Instagram. And independent journalists, which is amazing in my opinion, because it's so much harder to censor independent journalists when they don't have a big corporation that they're working for who tells them what to say. And that's why it's especially important for my generation to become involved in politics and to be informed on these things and to know history, because I really do have hope in our generation, and I think we can make this country so much better, especially because a lot of Gen Zers understand that, especially the Republican Party is not nearly as conservative or as America first as it should be, and a lot of Gen Zers know that. Like, we're frustrated with politicians who don't represent our values. And so I think when we get into office, it'll be better. Because obviously there's that half of us who is very liberal, But then there's that other half of us who, I mean, we're so conservative. We're way more conservative than older generations.
Anyways, I have hope for the future, and I hope that you guys can have hope for the future too. Thank you for watching this episode of Past, Present, and Politics.